a totally new football strategy to dominate football. Now, obviously, there's been a lot of innovation in football over the years. It's changed quite a bit, but this strategy that I'm going to give you is unlike anything you ever heard before, and is going to totally revolutionize the game. Get ready. So it's focused on defense, and I'll explain how it also leads to offense. So right now, defense is, without even realizing it, predicated on a couple of factors. One is lining up at the line of scrimmage, because the basic idea is that you want to stop the offense before they can penetrate significantly into the open field. So that kind of makes sense when you think about it, but there's a lot better way to do it. I'm going to explain in a minute. So when the defense tries to engage at the line of scrimmage, they become locked up with the offensive line, and they lose their flexibility and their range of motion. So instead of trying to engage at the line of scrimmage, a better strategy would be to line up a couple yards behind the line of scrimmage, maybe 2 yards, maybe 3 yards, maybe 5 yards, and not let the offensive line engage you. Because when you keep your freedom of motion and your freedom of flexibility, then you can do anything. Then you can truly react to what's going on in the play. So if you see that the play is going left, you can move left. If you see the play is going right, you can move right. If you see that the quarterback has moved back or the running back is stuck in the backfield, you can move forward. But in order to make an intelligent action, you have to have unimpeded movement, and you can't have unimpeded movement unless you have freedom of range from the offense. So when you just rush in blindly to try to engage, you lose your vision, you lose your hands, you lose your feet. See, what happens is when the defense engages with the offensive line, they can't see what's going on because they have an offensive lineman right in their face. They can't move left, they can't move right. They're just trying to overpower or spin around. I mean, they lose their whole field of vision. When you're now you might argue that if you're a couple yards deep, then you're giving a couple yards. Yes and no. I mean, as soon as if you're 2 yards deep, as soon as the running back gets to you 2 yards, you're right on him. So they might get 2 yards on the play, they might get 3. I mean, that's still not a bad play, but it's going to lead to not only to it's going to lead to more interceptions because you can see the field, you can see the line. See, what happens is, so I'm talking about the line of scrimmage. Let me talk about the secondary, the linebackers. If the linebackers, and I'm not saying it should be a completely zone coverage, because I mean you might want to employ something like in basketball where they do what's called a box and one, where it's basically a zone coverage, but when you have a really good player, you double up on them one-on-one. So what happens is the key to stopping the offense is being aware of what they're doing. And when you're locked in one-on-one coverage, you have your back to the football, so you have no idea what's going on. And you have, all you know is what your one guy is doing. Your one guy could be a decoy. Most guys are decoys. So you have to understand what's going on. So if you're in a zone and a box and one, then you still take away the best player because he's in a box and one, but you minimize how open somebody can get. See, receivers get very open because of blown coverages. But if you're protecting your zone, it's very difficult for you to blow a coverage because you're attentive to anything that happens in your zone. I mean, you can amend it a little bit to make, like in basketball when they have pick and rolls, they have substitutions with players, so you might need to do some of that. But basically, if every zone is covered, then the receivers cannot get very open. Now, an important aspect of this is that you have to cover deep much better. Let me explain it. So what happens is you can have much more success moving forward than going backwards. When you're on your heels, you're in a reactive position and you can't really have range of movement. But when you're moving forward, you can. So that's why you have to keep the play in front of you. What happens is in football, there's not enough deep coverage because a running back will go through the line and then boom, it's off to the races and people are chasing them from behind. It's the stupidest thing in the world. The receivers, they get behind the defense. The defense the secondary should be deep enough that no one can ever get behind them. Because what happens is in every game, there's plays where they get behind the defense and they score touchdowns. And that just breaks open a game. If you're deep enough that you're always moving forward and they can never get behind you, now it might seem like, okay, if I'm 15 yards deep, I'm going to give up a 10-yard pass. Maybe, maybe not. By the time the 10-yard pass gets to you, the guy that's 15 yards deep can move up. But the thing is, the key is that you can't. What happens is in the one-on-one coverage, a lot of times the receiver is faster, or they know where they're going and you don't. So they have the advantage, or they can juke you, pretend they're going one way, and then they get behind you. The key is to never let the defense get behind you. Never ever, ever let the defense get behind you. So you have to play deep enough where you're in zone and you're covering your zone, but you have enough flexibility of movement that even if they juke you, you still can recover and they can't get behind you. If you can prevent the offense from ever getting behind you and you're always moving forward, not back, then you eliminate all the big plays in the game. And that is one of the keys to victory. So again, to summarize, at the line of scrimmage, don't move forward to engage. Stay 2, 3, 4, 5 yards deep, and make them come to you. See, what happens is when the offense, either the offense will just stand there, at which point you maintain your freedom of movement, or they have to come to you. And when they come to you, then that puts them on the defense. Then you can, if they come to you, you can move left, you can move right, you can still. You have space and you have time to react to them moving. So it's always the first person that moves that's at the disadvantage. Because unless you really know where you're going, like the receiver. But generally, the first person to move is at a disadvantage because they're signaling, where they're going, and then the defense can react to it. So stay 2, 3, 4 yards off the line of a scrimmage. Don't engage. See where the play is going. Cover your zone with some help schemes, and never, ever, 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 ever let the offense get behind you.